What's going on, everybody? I'm Jory Goodman, the Time Teller. So guys, I'm very lucky to say I have a ton of different kinds of viewers. Some of you guys know a whole lot more than me, and some of you guys, I have a feeling, are just starting out in the watch collecting world, and that is awesome. So let's go ahead and answer a question I get all the time, and I have a feeling they're from the new watch collector. Now guys, if you're a new watch collector, have no fear. I have a bunch of episodes compiled into a playlist dedicated for the brand new watch collector. So click up here and watch that playlist and you'll learn a whole lot. But today's question is, what exactly is a sports watch? It's 6:10 p.m. Let's get down to business. Okay, so I figured if we're gonna try to define what a sports watch is, why not take out a few from my collection, see how they're similar, see how they're different, and yeah, maybe we can finally figure out what a sports watch is once and for all. So here's my SEIKO TUNA SBBN 031, here's my ROLEX Explorer 2 reference number 16570, and here on the right is my ROLEX date reference number 1500. Now right off the bat you can see a similarity between these three watches, and it's that they're made out of stainless steel. Now, does that mean each sports watch that's ever been invented has to be made out of stainless steel to be considered a sports watch? No, absolutely not. But typically, because of steel's general resistance to damage, it just makes for a durable watch, and that's perfect for a sporty watch, right? Now, these three have another thing in common, and it's their crowns, okay? They each have threaded crowns. Now that means the crown actually screws into the case. Now that does two things. Number one, it ensures a very tight seal, which means no water is gonna get into that watch, excuse me. Another thing it does is that it ensures that the crown stem won't break off into the movement if the crown should get hit, you know, because the crown is typically pretty vulnerable. A lot of people assume that the watch's crystal is the most vulnerable part of a watch, but honestly, if a crown gets hit hard enough, that crown stem breaks off into the movement and then it's just a huge bummer. So threaded crown gets supported by the case, perfect, another resilient feature. Another thing these watches have in common is that they're each wearing a stainless steel bracelet. Now, bracelets are a great versatile option when it comes to watches because if you're in a dry situation, perfect, no problem. If you're in a wet situation, perfect, no problem. If you were to sweat, if you were to swim, perfectly fine, stainless steel bracelet, you're good to go. Now let's go ahead and take a look at each of these watches separately and we can see how they differ. All right, my SEIKO TUNA SBBN 031, this is a sports watch, more specifically a diver, okay? This was designed for diving, right? Designed to withstand long periods of time at great depths. This has a 300-meter water resistance rating, obviously that threaded crown. This also has a unidirectional rotating bezel that many dive watches have, and you can use this to time things, okay? This also has a day-date complication, has Seiko's proprietary LumiBrite Lume, big bold indexes, big bold hands. This thing shines like a fireball. Underwater, in low light conditions, you can read this watch no problem. Supreme legibility. That double-domed hard-lex crystal, just a really badass beast of a watch. Of course, it's got that metal shroud protecting that 47mm case, and that case is covering one of the most robust movements you can buy, that 7C46 quartz movement. Just a really, really cool watch. All right, the next sports watch I want to take a look at is my ROLEX Explorer 2, reference number 16570. This is 40mm, substantially smaller than the SEIKO TUNA we just looked at. But don't let the size fool you. This is a pretty tough watch, okay? It's got that oyster case, crown guards, threaded crown. We already spoke about that. Now, this watch was actually designed for people exploring polar landscapes and actual cave explorers. That's right, spelunkers. This watch has a 24-hour bezel that coincides with that GMT complication and that red GMT hand. This watch has got a really interesting quick set hour hand, so changing time zones is incredibly simple. You're getting that date complication with magnifier. This watch is, you know, it's a great mix of legibility, durability, but it's not nearly as bulky as something like a diver or the SEIKO TUNA, right? 47mm, 40mm. This Explorer 2 looks very much subdued in comparison to the SEIKO diver. All right, which brings us to my little Rolex date reference number 1500. Now I say little because this watch measures in at 34 millimeters. That's right, it's got a 34 millimeter stainless steel oyster case. Now guys, the age of this watch should just speak for itself. This watch is from the 1960s and it's still worn daily. I still get it wet, no issues at all. Again, there's something to be said about that oyster case. I don't know, it's just a really, really great system, and again, the age speaks for itself. Now, this watch specifically has got a date complication, of course. It's the Rolex date. Threaded crown, of course. It's got the oyster case, of course. Stainless steel bracelet, and honestly, it's kind of the perfect mix of elegance and durability, right? Like, you don't need something like a 47 millimeter behemoth like the SEIKO TUNA to get all the benefits that a sports watch can give you. Like, this watch, if I'm going into a formal occasion, I can put this watch on, wear it with a suit and tie, no problem. If I'm going on vacation, maybe to the beach, or maybe I'm going swimming in a pool, I can put this watch on, no problem. It's functional, it's beautiful, and yeah, I absolutely love this watch. Okay, so now that we've taken a look at 3 different sports watches and we've gone over some of the similarities and differences, I know some of you guys are thinking, who the heck wears a watch when they're playing sports? No one wears a watch when they're playing sports. Well, that might be true for conventional team sports, but let's go ahead and take a look at the definition of sporting. So, according to the internet, sporting is to amuse oneself or play in a lively, energetic way. So, while you might not wear a watch when you're playing football or basketball, you probably could wear one when you're on a proper quail hunt in the countryside, or maybe when you're playing polo on your horse, or maybe when you're swimming or golfing or betting on a horse race. Guys, we're talking about the fancy definition of sports here. But honestly, all jokes aside, in general, a sports watch is a robust, durable, stainless steel watch with some form of water resistance. Now, it doesn't need to be a dive watch like a SEIKO TUNA, but it just has to survive getting wet. Now, are there exceptions to this criteria? Of course, but if you're looking to get into a proper sports watch, hopefully this episode helped you just a little bit. Alright guys, well again, if this episode helped you out, please consider subscribing to the channel. I upload Monday, Wednesday, Friday with a live Q&A session every Saturday. It is non-stop here guys, so please subscribe, hit that bell icon. YouTube does a terrible job notifying my subscribers when I upload, and again, I upload all the freaking time, so you do not want to miss out. Like, comment, subscribe, share this with other watch enthusiasts, other people that you think would enjoy this. I'm Jory Goodman, the Time Teller, and always remember, I didn't invent time, I just tell it. Real quick, if you enjoyed this episode, then do not worry, the fun doesn't need to stop here. Check out these recommended episodes that are going to be popping up on the screen anytime now. Also, take a moment, check out my brand new channel, the Time Away channel. It's where I talk about everything outside of the watch world, some of my other collections, some of my other hobbies, and if you're not interested in any of that, don't worry, just stay right here, and I will see you right here. Because I never leave. I am trapped inside of this camera.